As we walk up to our vehicle, we're going to be looking underneath for any signs of leaks, no hoses or wires dangling. We're going to check all of our lights, my overhead clearance lights, my turn signals, four-way flashers, and running lights are all properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged. They're of the proper color amber, and they're functional. Then my high beams and low beams, they are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, broken, or damaged. They are of the proper color white, and they are functional. My hood latches are already unlocked. So we're going to lift our hood. We're going to come over to the unique side of our vehicle, also known as the passenger side. You do not have to do this on your test, but real life purposes, this is important. You want to check your windshield washer reservoir. It is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked or broken. It is not leaking fluid. My cap is tethered and tight, and it is filled to the proper level. We're going to do a general hose overview. All of my hoses are properly mounted and secured at both ends. There's no cuts, bulges, or abrasions in my lines, and they're not leaking air or fluid depending on the hose. Then we're going to go to our turbo and exhaust system. It is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. All hardware is present. There's no signs of leaks, which would be soot or rust trails. Then we're going to go to our first belt-driven component, which is our alternator. My alternator is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is functional. My wires, my power wires, they are properly mounted and secured. There's no cuts, tears, or frays in my wires. We're going to check our belt. You want to make sure your belt has no more than 1/2 to 3/4 inches of play. Make sure there's no cuts, tears, or frays in your belt. Now we're going to go over to the driver's side of the vehicle. When we come over to the driver's side, we're going to start with our coolant reservoir. My coolant reservoir is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, broken, and it's not leaking fluid. Both of my caps are present and tight, and my coolant hoses are coupled properly on both ends. There is no cuts, bulges, or abrasions, and it's not leaking fluid. We're going to go to our oil fill cap next. My oil fill cap is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, broken, or damaged. It is properly tethered, and it's not leaking fluid. Then we're going to go to our dipstick. You do not have to actually pull this. Just tell them how you would check it. I would pull my dipstick out, wipe it off, stick it back in, hold it for a couple seconds, pull it back out, and make sure it's between add and full. Now we're going to go on to our second belt-driven component, which is my water pump. My water pump is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking fluid. You want to make sure you have no more than 1/2 inch to 3/4 inches of play in your belt. There's no cuts, tears, or frays in my belt. Now we're going to come over to my power steering reservoir. It is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It's not cracked, broken, or damaged, and it's not leaking fluid. Both of my caps are present and tight, and the seals are in good condition. My line going from my reservoir to my power steering gearbox is coupled properly on both ends. There's no cuts, bulges, or abrasions, and it's not leaking fluid. Now, we're going to go to our two gear-driven components. Follow this line from your power steering gearbox back to your power steering pump right down in here. My power steering pump is a gear-driven component. It is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking fluid. Right above that is your air compressor. It is your second gear-driven component. It is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking air. From there, we're going to go to our steering shaft. My steering shaft is properly mounted and secured on both ends. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no more than 10% of play in my shaft. Both of my U-joints are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're free of foreign debris. Now we're going to go down to my power steering gearbox. My power steering gearbox is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking fluid. Now we're going to go to our 3-piece steering system. It is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. All hardware is present and tight. That includes castle nuts and cotter pins. From there, we're going to go to our suspension system. My leaf spring hangers are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they are free of illegal welds. My bushings are present and not damaged. My leaf springs are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. I have no missing or shifted leaves. From there, we're going to go to our U-bolts. Both of my U-bolts are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. All hardware is present and tight. Signs of looseness would be shiny threads or rust trails on the bottom side. We're going to go to our shock and shock mounts. My shock and shock mounts are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking fluid. My bushings are present and not damaged. You're going to transition from there into your frame. My frame is not cracked, bent, broken. It's free of illegal welds, and there's no signs of severe rust. Then you're going to come out of your frame into your ABS and airline. My ABS and airline are properly mounted and secured. There's no cuts, bulges, or abrasions, no frays, and it's not leaking air. My brake chamber is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It is not leaking air. There's no signs of severe dents. My clamp is present and tight. This is a disc brake setup. We're going to go into our caliper. My caliper is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's functional. Then we're going to go to our pads. My pads are properly mounted and secured. They are not damaged. They are not unevenly worn or dangerously thin. I have at least 1/4 inch of pad left. Then we're going to check our rotor. My rotor is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or damaged. And there's no signs of heat damage such as bluing or hazing, and it's free of foreign contaminants such as oil or grease. My tire is properly mounted and secured to my rim. There is no cuts, bulges, or abrasions, and it's not leaking. My tire, I have matching version radials. They are evenly worn. I would check my tread depth with a tread depth gauge, and I would ensure I have at least 4 30-seconds tread depth. From there, we're going to go to our rim. My rim is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It is free of illegal welds. My bolt holes are not cracked or distorted. All of my lug nuts are present and tight. Signs of looseness would be shiny threads or rust trails. Now we're going to check our hub. My hub is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged, and it's not leaking fluid. I would pull this plug out and ensure that it is filled to the proper manufacturer specification. Now I have a metal valve stem with a metal valve stem cap. It is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking air. I would check this with a tire pressure gauge and ensure it's filled to the manufacturer specifications. We're a side marker. My side marker is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged. It's clean and clear of foreign debris, and it's of the proper color amber. It is functional. My mirror is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged. We're going to check our door. My door opens and shuts properly. Both inner and outer seals are intact. They are not cut, torn, or frayed. My hinges are both properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are free of illegal welds. You also want to make sure that your door does not sag. Now you're going to go to your steps. My cab steps, catwalk steps, and catwalk if I had one are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are free and clear of foreign debris such as mud or ice. Now we're going to start with my DEF tank and fuel tanks. Both my DEF tank and fuel tanks are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not damaged and they are not leaking. Both of my caps are tethered and tight. The seals are in good condition. They're going to come back here. My cab shocks. My cab shocks and shock mounts are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are not leaking fluid. My airbags and airbag mounts, they are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not damaged and they are not leaking. There is no cuts, bulges, or abrasions in my bags. Now we're going to go to my frame and cross members. My frame and cross members are not damaged. They are free of illegal welds. There is no signs of severe rust. My cross members are properly mounted and secured to my frame. Now we're going to check my drive shafts and my U-joints. Both of my drive shafts and U-joints are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are free of illegal welds. And my U-joints are free of foreign debris. Now we're going to check my exhaust. My exhaust is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, broken. It's free of leaks such as rust or soot. One thing that's easy to forget that is hard to see on a single axle because it is behind your fifth wheel is your torque arm, also known as a dog bone. My torque arm is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It is free of illegal welds. All hardware is present and tight. My bushings are present and not damaged. Now we're going to go to suspension. It is very important you remember there are some differences on the rear of your tractor compared to the front. You have leaf spring hangers in the front, airbags on the rear. Do not forget that. My leaf spring hangers are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is free of illegal welds. My bushings are present and not damaged. My leaf springs are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. I have no missing or shifted leaves. And to go back down to your U-bolts. My U-bolts are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and all hardware is present and tight. Signs of looseness is shiny threads or rust trails. Then go to your shock and shock mounts. My shock and shock mounts are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they are not leaking fluid. My bushings are present and not damaged. Come back here to your airbags and airbag mounts. My airbags and airbag mounts are properly mounted and secured. They are not damaged, and there's no cuts, bulges, or abrasions in my bags. They are not leaking air. Now we're going to go into our brake system. We're going to have to go back out and go over towards the fifth wheel. Your brake chamber is hard to see back here. You need to start with your ABS and air lines. My ABS and air line are properly mounted and secured. On both ends, there's no cuts, bulges, abrasions, or frays, and my air line's not leaking air. My brake chamber is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. There is no severe dents, and it's not leaking air. My clamp is present and tight. This is a disc brake setup on the rear of this tractor. So we're going to go to our caliper. You are allowed to say that you would inspect your braking system the same way back here that you did up front if you get the whole vehicle. It is important that you separate and say, I would inspect my caliper the same way back here that I did on the front. With that being said, if you did it the proper way, you get credit. If you messed it up on the front and you do this back here, you're going to mess up and you're probably going to fail pre-trip. You're not going to get the points. So I know I inspected my caliper the correct way on the front, so I'm going to say this. I would inspect my caliper the same way on my drive axle I did on my front axle. I would inspect my brake pads and my caliper the same way that I did on the front. You have to separate them. So say, I would inspect my caliper the same way back here I did on the front. I would inspect my brake pads the same way I did back here, the same way I did up front. My rotor, I would inspect it the same way I did back here, the same way I did up front. You can say the same thing with your tires, but back here I have duals. You need to state the differences if you're going to do it like this. My duals have proper spacing in between them. They're free of foreign debris, and my tread depth back here is 230 seconds instead of 430 seconds. And I would check that with a tread depth gauge. I would inspect my tires the same way back here, the same way I did up front. I would inspect my rims the same way back here, the same way I did up there. My hub, I would inspect it the same way back here that I did up there. Lug nuts, same thing. Valve stem, I would inspect my valve stem back here the same way I did up front. Now, we're going to go to my splash guards and mud flaps. They are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not damaged. They're properly spaced from my tires, and they're not dragging the ground. Ideally, you want to have 100% DOT tape on the back of your mud flaps. Now, do not forget your lights. I have a reverse light. My reverse light is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged. It's clean of foreign debris. It is of the proper color white and it's functional. Now go on to your red lights. My tail lights are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, broken, or damaged. They are clean and clear of foreign debris. They are of the proper color red. They are functional. Their functions are running lights, turn signals, four-way flashers, and brake lights. I'm going to start with our bulkhead. My bulkhead is properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged. There's no holes. All of my rivets are present. We're going to look down the side of our trailer. The side of my trailer is properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged. There's no holes. All rivets are present. Looking down the side of our trailer, you want to make sure you have 50% DOT tape. It is properly mounted and secured. It is not damaged. It's of the proper color red and white. Now we're going to go to our cross members. My cross members are all properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They're free of illegal welds. All hardware is present and tight. You can go ahead and mention your floor under here. My floor is properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged, and it's free of holes. My landing gear is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present and tight. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's free of illegal welds. My handle is in the stowed away position. It is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is tight and is not damaged. My legs and feet are in a fully raised position. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are properly mounted and secured, and they are free of illegal welds. Make sure you don't forget your overhead clearance side marker up there. It is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged. It's clean and clear of foreign debris, and it's of the proper color amber. Come right here to your trailer side marker. It's properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged. It is free of foreign debris, and it is the proper color red, and it's functional. Its function is a side marker. Now onto our ABS light. My ABS light is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged. It is clean and clear of foreign debris, and it's of the proper color amber. It should turn on and turn off if it's functioning properly. If it's not, it will stay on. Come underneath our trailer. We're going to start with our trailer frame. My frame is properly mounted and secured to my cross members. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It is free of illegal welds. My leaf spring hangers, they are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. They're free of illegal welds. My bushings are present and not damaged. My torque arms, they are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. My leaf springs are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. I have no missing or shifted leaves. My U-bolts are present. They're properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they are free of looseness. Signs of looseness would be shiny threads or rust trails. Now we're going to go on to our ABS and air lines. My ABS and air lines are properly mounted and secured. There's no cuts, bulges, abrasions, or frays, and they're not leaking air. Go on to my brake chamber. My brake chambers are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no signs of severe dents, and they're not leaking air. Both of my clamps are present and tight. This is a drum brake setup. My drums are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are free of illegal welds. My pads or lining are properly mounted and secured. They are not unevenly worn or dangerously thin, and they are free of foreign contaminants such as oil or grease. You want to make sure that you lay down and look. It is very easy to miss your slack adjuster and push rods behind your brake chambers. Where they are located, they are hard to see. You can see them through the back of your DOT bumper. My slack adjuster and push rods are properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present and tight. That includes pins and cotter pins. The way I would check my slack adjusters, I would chalk my wheels, release my brakes, and pull on my slack adjuster and ensure that I have no more than 1 inch of play in my slack adjuster. Now I'm going to show you how you would inspect duals. Both inside and outside of my sidewalls are properly mounted and secured to my rims. There's no cuts, bulges, or abrasions, and they're not leaking air. My duals are properly spaced and are free of foreign debris. I would check my tread depth with a tread depth gauge and ensure I have no less than 2/32 tread depth. My rims of my duals are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are free of illegal welds. My bolt holes are not cracked or distorted. All of my lug nuts are present and tight. Signs of looseness will be shiny threads or rust trails. This trailer does have an automatic air inflator. You do not have to talk about it. Just talk about the valve stem. I have a metal valve stem with a metal valve stem cap. It is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking air. I would check this with a tire pressure gauge and ensure it's filled to the manufacturer's specifications. Now we're going to go to our mud flap. My mud flap is properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged. It's properly spaced from my tires, and it's not dragging the ground. On the rear of my trailer, I have 100% DOT tape. It is properly mounted and secured. It is not damaged. It's of the proper color, red and white. My DOT bumper is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's free of illegal welds, and it's free and clear of foreign debris such as mud or ice. We're going to do all of our lights now. My overhead clearance lights, turn signals, four-way flashers, running lights, and brake lights are all properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, broken, or damaged. They are free and clear of foreign debris, and they are of the proper color red, and they are functional. My door itself is properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged. It's free of holes. All hardware is present and tight. My guide wires, properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present, and they are not damaged. My latch unlatches, latches properly. My door opens and shuts properly. My ceiling, sidewalls, and floor are all properly mounted and secured. They are not damaged. They're free of severe holes. I would inspect the passenger side of my truck the same way I did the driver's side. I'm going to perform coupling. You have to do coupling no matter what section of the truck that you get. If you get the whole vehicle, it is important that you separate it and do it last because it's easy to blend into B or side of the truck. We're going to start with our clearances. I have proper spacing between my cab and bulkhead, apron to tire, and tractor frame and mud flaps to landing gear for proper turning. My air and electrical lines are properly mounted and secured on both ends. There's no cuts, bulges, abrasions, or frays in my lines, and my air lines are not leaking air. I would check my glad hand seals and ensure that I have no cut, torn, or folded seals that would cause an air leak. You can pull your electrical plug out, ensure you have no broken, dirty, or missing pins that would cause a bad connection. Now, you need to clarify what type of fifth wheel assembly you have. I have a sliding fifth wheel assembly. My pins are in the fully locked position. Let's go ahead and start with our actuator and our actuator air lines. My air actuator that controls my sliding fifth wheel is properly mounted and secured. All hardware is present and tight. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking air. My air lines are properly mounted and secured. There's no cuts, bulges, or abrasions, and they're not leaking air. Now start up top, work your way down. My apron is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's free of illegal welds. There is no gap between my apron and my skid plate, so I see no daylight. My skid plate is properly greased. My skid plate itself is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It is held in place to my mounting platform via pivot pins with a locking pin and cotter pin. My mounting platform is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It is free of illegal welds. That is then held in place to my mounting plate and support bracket. They are both properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, free of illegal welds. It is very important you say all nuts and bolts are present and tight. You cannot say hardware. My release arm is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's functional. It's in a fully locked position. I would verify that by going underneath my trailer, looking down the throat of my fifth wheel and ensuring my locking jaws are fully locked around my kingpin shank. My kingpin itself is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's free of illegal welds, and it is properly greased.